Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Film Festival and Events, and welcome to the show today. If you have been with us, which I hope you have been for this entire 2025 year, you will realize that we have been delving deep into multiple different subgenres and genres of the horror world. We've also been delving deep into different decades as well, because we want to give a much more broad look at all the different types of horror films that have been produced since the film arts have began, actually. About the only thing we haven't touched upon is the silent film yet, but never fear, we will probably get to one of those before the year is out. That being said, one of the genres that we've been trying to focus on a lot this year, that we've kind of delved deep into because we just didn't do many of them last year, if any, is the found footage genre. We know how diverse this genre is now, but when it did have a popular heyday, there was tons and tons of these films being produced, which is probably why they're not fondly remembered or looked upon today. So one of the films that we are going to be delving deep into is called The Gallows. And to speak about The Gallows with me today is one of my special guest host, Philip Ray. Thank you for joining us today.
Special goat guest, yes. I'm pleasure to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you back, especially to talk about a movie called The Gallows, which just for everyone out there, there's a lot of people who see this film, and then there's a lot of people who didn't see this film because it came and went really fast. But it's one of those found footage films that cost almost nothing to make, and they made a lot of money off of, which is why they made a sequel to it. But it is not exactly fondly remembered. We're gonna have two different perspectives from this, I'm pretty sure, because I have a different reasoning why I really enjoy this film than many other people may have. So, Philip, tell us all a little bit about your first impression of this movie, when you first saw it, all that good stuff.
So with The Gallows, for me, the trailer, it was one of those movies that had a really great trailer. It actually, they did the artist was Mila J, I believe, and she did a cover of "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and it was the music was just so chilling, along with the found footage, just around the time when like Cloverfield was out, and it was trying to invoke kind of like that. It was around the time when found footage was kind of hot again. And so like the trailer like really got me interested of like, oh, this seems like it could be really cool. And then the final product was just okay. I'm definitely on the other side where I think the ideas they had are really cool, but the execution is I was not a fan of. And actually, and I'm kind of curious, Kevin, have you seen the original director's cut, or have you only seen the theatrical cut?
I've only seen the theatrical cut. I know that there is an original cut out there, which I wouldn't be surprised of, because this was a pretty no-budget film before Jason Blum and Blumhouse got a hold of it. They purchased it for almost nothing, and they made a crap ton of money off of it when they took it to the theater. But
yeah, when Jason Blum took it, they reshot 80% of the movie. They actually recast one of the leads because the actress at the time had lost too much weight, and so they decided to switch her out with another actress. So it was actually the lead actress was. Let me confirm that. No, sorry, it wasn't the lead actress. One of the other characters in the story, they got switched out with a different actress during the reshoots because of a weight change and stuff. So it definitely is. There is definitely a different, a lot of a different move from the original cut was compared to the director's cut.
So one of the reasons, and I saw this movie at the theater when it first came out, the weekend it came out. Like most movies back then, I used to go the first weekend it came out. I really wanted to see this movie for two reasons. One is I'm a huge found footage fan, and two, this is the first found footage / movie where I thought that it was doing, it was showcasing high school drama and high school theater, which we never see done. And I'm not counting that High School Musical crap either, because I ain't watching that junk. sorry, people fans of that stuff. I'm not gonna watch that. I've never seen it. I just know it exists. I'm never gonna watch it. It's not my cup of tea. But for them to create a horror film that embeds that whole culture and world is what got me into it, because I have been around that world for years and I was very familiar with it. So I wanted to see how well they captured it on film. So that was the whole reason why I saw the film. And I really enjoyed it. My bias is I enjoyed it because of the way they incorporated the behind the scenes stuff that we do in the theater world, much less the high school theater world, in this film. So
Yeah, I like the setting. Definitely the premise is interesting, and even the design of the main antagonist is a cool design. That's again one of the things that I liked. Again, it's so the premise of the story, for people who aren't aware about it, is basically 20 years ago there was an accident during a high school play. The play is called The Gallows, and basically a student is accidentally hung uh, by accident during the play, and then we flash forward 20 years in the future, and the high school is finally trying to do that play again, and it falls around it falls around multiple teenagers, but the main two couple is a jock who's trying to impress this girl, and he's cast as the lead. And basically, he gets convinced by his jock friend, to go into the school and basically kind of sabotage the the play before it happens, because they don't think it's going to be good for the friends think it's going to be good for the jock. And then obviously horror shenanigans ensue. But the beginning premise of that, of an accident with like in theater and high school theater, is like, again, I was also a high school theater kid, so it definitely was an interesting premise. And then again, you have this antagonist, the spirit that basically kills his victims with a noose and stuff. And it's, again, that sounds very interesting.
now, yeah, that is pretty much the premise of the entire play, or I say play, the entire movie, which is very cliche and a familiar trope with these type of movies. But the thing that and I'll get to the thing that I love about the movie is the fact that we see all this behind the scenes type of world of the theater atmosphere, because you have the main guy Reese, who has an infatuation for the lead female actress Pfeiffer in the movie, and then of course I can't remember his other friend's name to save my life. Ryan. Ryan, who is the cameraman for most of the movie. He's the one behind the camera who's filming most of it until he makes an untimely death, unfortunately, or when Reese ends up holding onto the camera. The interesting thing I found about the movie is that Ryan is not a character who actually wants to. He has no allegiance to the play, but they are having him film it, the behind the scenes anyways. So this guy is making fun of the whole theater world the entire time. And he's saying, oh my God, Reese, you suck. You suck as an actor. You suck. This is going to be humiliating to you. Why did you leave football for this? I like the fact that it plays with those tropes of those cliches of the jock and the whole thing with the drama tech, or the drama, I don't want to say drama tech, the drama kids, because Ryan has this animosity towards the theater people, despite the fact that he's the one filming this whole thing. He tries to pull pranks on some of the other guys. It's a very animosity. There's a lot of animosity there. So he actually is one character that, even though sometimes he tells Reese the truth, the bare truth, without like sugarcoating it, he's also the guy, like a jock, that you want to see die at some point. That being said, when he devises this plan to break into the school to sabotage the play to help Reese out, because he thinks it's going to be a complete disaster. I like the fact that they don't mention anything about the fact that it's the so-called resurrection of a play by someone who died 20 years earlier. It's really, Reese, you suck as an actor. and you should bury this before it buries you. So those type of things I really, really enjoyed about the story. They lose that at a certain spot towards the third act, so I can get it where it starts off really well, and then they lose some of that aspect when they start bringing in the Hangman, who, for me, the Hangman. To be honest with you, the Hangman is like they just needed someone to be personification of killing other people.
Yeah, the problem with the story, in my opinion, is the third act. Once you there's reveals that are would have made the movie way more interesting if that was the start of it, and there's not really anything like there's a reveal about Reese, the main jock, his connection a little bit to the original play. There's a reveal with that is actually kind of interesting. And they never go into it, and even the Hangman, the Gallows spirit, his vengeance is kind of paper thin
yeah.
when you know what's actually going on, and it actually makes zero sense in the end. When you
Yes.
think about what he's after, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then even the main girl, there's a reveal with her character in the end that, in my opinion, is a dumb reveal,
Yep.
and it just breaks down the logic of everything, because then it's one of those reveals where you have to like put a graph out and go, wait a minute, how does this work? Because then that would have to happen, but also that doesn't happen, and also because that's one thing they changed in the director's cut is the timeline, is because in the theatrical cut it's 20 years. For the original director's cut, it was 25 years, which, because of the reveal at the end, helps a little bit explain a little more about that reveal versus the original timeline reveal, where you're like,
Yeah.
wait, that makes zero sense.
So we will talk about some of the reveals at the end, because I think if we don't, it will just ruin like our logic on talking about this. Because in the third act, it is revealed that Reese's father was the person who was supposed to originally be the person that was supposed to be hung in the play of the Gallows. And of course, that doesn't happen. And so Charlie, who was, I forget what he did beforehand, ended up stepping in as the.
I think he was the understudy, which is
understudy. He steps in to take his place, and he ends up dying at the Gallows. Now, there is no reason other than it being an accident for this whole thing.
Yeah, that's the thing is it. So that's why Charlie's after everyone, specifically Reese, is because of the fact that's like, oh, I shouldn't have died. It should have been your father. But that's, again, the problem with the story is like, but it wasn't. I saw a YouTube comment that I really loved. It's like, how dare you get sick? Is basically is the logic at the end, is because you got sick, I died, and it makes the whole thing paper thin. If it was something where it's revealed that, like, let's say Reese's dad wasn't sick and he just lied about it, or if he like sabotaged the situation that potentially accidentally caused Charlie to die, it would make, then the aggression would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But there is none of that. It is just purely, oh, you got sick, so I'm gonna go kill your son. Which also makes no sense, because then it's like, well, why wouldn't he just go after the dad then? So it makes revenge really paper thin to a point, and so you don't get invested, and you kind of scratch your head of like,
you scratch your head once they do the reveal, especially that last scene where it takes the entire film out of the school setting, and they go back to Reese's Piper's house. The police enter her house, and then of course the Hangman shows up at her house, and it's revealed that Piper's mother was the one who was dating Charlie, and that was she had a baby who is now Pfeiffer 20 years later, who's in high school, which doesn't really make any sense at all either.
No, because if you do the timeline, then If it happens 20, that's again the one of the biggest issues with I don't even know why they changed the timeline, because if it's 20 years, there's no way Piper would have been conceived. Like Piper would have had to been conceived. She would have had to been conceived in the middle of high school, which doesn't still make sense because she would still be too old at the time. She would be too old at the time to be able to be involved. But if it's 25 years, then there's a little more of a stretch of the timeline where you can be like, okay, I guess that kind of works a little better. But no, it doesn't work. So one thing, and that was another change too. Originally, Piper was not supposed to be the daughter. That was actually a change done by Blumhouse. Originally, Piper, all she was going to be was a fanatic of the Hangman. That was the original story for hers was, but Blumhouse changed it where they made her the daughter, which made things even more confusing.
Well, yeah, because the daughter and mother at the very last scene seem like they have control of the Hangman, so the Hangman will do whatever the heck they want him to do. Hence why the cops get killed, and it's a strange reveal. And I think that taking the Hangman out of the theater was the worst. Besides that reveal, I think taking the Hangman out of the school was really dumb. I'm like, okay, so why didn't he do revenge earlier?
Then it's again, he goes like, well, if he can just pop in wherever, why didn't he just go after the dad originally? Like, if he wanted to kill the son, why didn't he just kill the son earlier? It's very much, I think the story loses itself in the third act.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's unfortunately, with a lot of movies, your ending is what either makes or breaks the movie. And for me, it breaks the movie because it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And apparently, the original cut had more padding out. It made because it's a short movie. It's only 81 minutes. Mm-hmm. Originally, the director's cut was longer because there was more scenes to pad out. There was a lot more story changes, like with Piper's reveal and stuff. But when Blumhouse took over, he basically reshot 80% of it and cut down a lot to make it bare bones. And I think it makes the story suffer because of that.
I think at this point, one of the reasons why it did is like a lot of found footage films are short.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't even make it to 90 minutes. I'm not sure why that is, but a lot of them kind of get in, get out, and then just end abruptly. And this one tried to actually explain a lot more than needed to be explained. I mean, the original Paranormal Activity doesn't really explain a whole lot by the time you get to the end. It's the sequels that go through and kind of delve deeper into the mythology and stuff like that. But that first one, even though that was also changed at the very end as well, to give a shock ending. I'm sure that's one of the things that the movie needed to have is a shock ending after they watched it. But for the Gallows, I think the shock of Pfeiffer and Reese replaying the scene in the Gallows, and then Reese realizing that Pfeiffer is still playing the character right before he dies,
that's a good scene. I actually like the way that scene was done and stuff. But then it gets silly at the end because then Reese gets hanged, and then Pfeiffer's still doing the scene, and then Charlie appears as a ghost, adult ghost per se. That's the other thing that made no sense was he appeared as an adult when it's like, wouldn't he? What Star Wars logic is this? Like, he should have been his child self. He should not have been an adult when he appeared at the end. But either way, adult Charlie pops up and does a bow with Pfeiffer, and that's when the house lights turn on, and it's revealed that the girlfriend was in the audience the entire time. Which then you go, how long was she there? Like, how did she know to be? Well, I guess the idea is Pfeiffer told her, but also it's just like, how long has she been there? Like,
well, it depends because in theory, Pfeiffer didn't know they were going to be there until Pfeiffer sees Reese's car in the parking lot.
And
So,
that's another problem. That's like, well, it seems like they planned it then because of the fact that the mom was there at the end. But it's like, but yeah, like you said, she didn't even know this was the plan. It comes to the question of like, well, if Ryan never convinced them to go into the house, what was their plan in the end to get revenge?
mm-hmm. So,
Like,
well, these are the things you figure out when you're rewatching a film like this, and you're like, oh. Like, to be honest with you, I've only seen this movie 3 times. I saw it at the theater when it originally came out. And then, of course, I bought it and saw it before the second one came out. And then I saw it for the show here. But neither time before this, watching it for the show, did I look at it critically like I am now. My first impression of this film when I first saw it at the theater, because it was so fast, because it was only 80 minutes long, and it was opening weekend, you have a much grander appreciation of it that you probably should have, especially if it's a found footage film and you're not looking at it critically. It wasn't until I looked at it critically where I started to see, wow, there's a lot of, and I never liked the ending anyways. The last reveal after they leave the school I thought was stupid. And I just, when I rewatched it, I thought, how much dumber is it now that I've kind of thought about the whole film? I mean, the look of this film is really, really good, even though a lot of the cinematography choices, especially in the second act when people start getting killed, are very much of your standard horror film. That's where I see Jason Blum's influences, because he's been doing them for so long. I start seeing those influences in that second act when you start bumping people off one by one. It looks great, but you kind of see the cliches that have become like the cliches of the found footage genre in that second act. So, it's it's one of those movies that people look at. They'll see it once if they bother to see it once, and then it's one of those things. Either you really hate it, or you just forget about it.
I think for this, it's a very forgettable, especially with the fact it had a sequel that didn't even go straight to theaters. It went straight to DVD, and it's funny because did you ever see the sequel?
Yeah.
The fact that the sequel just dropped the found footage part, they were just like, yeah, know what? We're not even, which is funny because the concept they have for the second, it's like that actually would have been interesting to see how they would have done that in a found footage setting. But they said, no, we're not even gonna do that. And yeah, so like the problem is like the Gallows is one of those movies that the trailers is probably the only thing it's going to be remembered for long term. Other than that, it's a very forgettable found footage horror movie.
Well, I also think that because of the timing is why it made so much money, like you said. I mean, we hadn't gotten to the time at the box office where people were completely done with found footage films, which is why it made so much money. And the thing is, it didn't make a ton of money. To be honest with you, it made a ton of profit based on how much was put into it. That's where it became successful, and that's where why they produced the second one, probably for just as cheap, if not a little bit more. You got to remember, Jason Blum and Blumhouse at that time were not doing films at high budgets. They simply did films on really, really low budgets. And one of the guidelines for those really early films of his is a lot of the actors and key personnel got back in on the films unless they were acquisitions. The Gallows was an acquisition and not one he produced. So they got back in for how much the movie made a profit. That's how he was able to do so many films for so little amount of money. If it wasn't good enough, in his opinion, it would go straight to DVD or straight to video or POV. If it was good enough, then he'd give it to the theater. And, I'm assuming that the reason why the Gallows went to the theater is because it had a hook that he could sell. Not so much because it was good, but because it had a hook he could sell.
During that time, too, there was a lot of found footage,
and he put out a lot of found footage films.
Yeah, that same year that Gallows came out, we had Area 51, we had we had a Paranormal Activity movie come out. We had um I just saw it. And we also had The Visit. So that's three, so actually including The Gallows, that's four different found footage movies, horror found footage movies that came out that year.
At the theater, but not to mention the ones that went all straight to video, which
Yes,
were a ton more.
there's tons more that went straight to video, but that shows you, like, again, at that time, again, because the Paranormal Activity is what that really kicked it off. It was purely like, all right, especially for Blumhouse, like, all right, let's do these found footage. Because of the ones I've listed, three of them were produced by Blumhouse.
Yes, there you go. Oh yeah, that's right. Because he also did The Visit.
Yeah, he did.
Area 51. Did he do Area 51? I can't
He
remember.
did not. He did not. So actually, I said incorrectly. He did two of the four. So he did Unfriended. He
Oh yeah.
did and the Gallows. No, he did three. Okay, yeah, he did. So okay, yeah, he did five because he did Unfriended, he did Gallows, and he did The Visit. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't do Paranormal Activity, and he did not do Area 51.
No, I think of the
But,
other.
but that's five big, like, those. That's five, like, theatrical release found footage horror movies in 1 year,
Yep.
and Jason did three of them. He did more than half of it.
Well, because the ratio for the production cost versus the profit is so huge on those. Oh, even when they did what was it, Chronicle, or even what was it, Cloverfield, maybe one of the more expensive ones, to be honest with you. Uh, Found footage films were, in theory, cheap to make. They were low budget movies that you could make. I mean, they weren't easy to accomplish, in my opinion. That's the problem. Is they're like zombie movies. Everyone thinks you could do it because they think zombies are easy to make, but in reality, making a good one is really hard. Found footage is the same way. Making it's really easy. You go out there, you have shaky cam, oh, it's found footage, blah 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 blah. But to have a story and actors who can execute it and make it seem like it's real is really hard. Um, if anything, that is one of the things I do like about this film. Without the Hangman being in there, most of the actors in this film are genuinely good. It may be that the film is hampered in the third act, and I agree with you 100%. The third act is where everything starts to fall apart. You know, some of the stuff that's leading up to the third act is actually really good. The setup for the movie is really good. The some of the stuff somewhere in the second act, when they start killing off people, the only thing I don't like the Hangman. I do like the aspect that everyone is hung and their people, their bodies are dragged up into the rafters in the rail, because anyone who knows anything about the theater world, the rail system where we hang stuff from, it's really cool. It's just see the bodies get dragged up there, and then of course you have the scene that's in every slasher film where you see the characters walk by the bodies, all the dead bodies and stuff like that. I think that type of stuff is what Jason Blum brought into the film that made it seem like any other film. I would have liked to have seen what it would have been like the director's cut. I don't even think I would be hesitant to believe that the actual Hangman that was used in the film, the theatrical cut, was actually the type of Hangman that was used in the original version. That just seems like I need a cliche killer, and that's what he looked like. He looked like a cliche killer.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things about found footage movies. You have people who like them, you have people that loathe them, and then there's all the people out there who just are indifferent of them because they can't stand the motion sickness.
But hey, it wasn't like Cloverfield where they had to put the motion sickness warnings. They didn't have to do it for this movie.
Nah, because you know what? In the original cut, they probably did, but not this cut.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the, it's funny because like some of the shots are actually almost verbatim the same. It's just what Blumhouse did was he just made them brighter, like and actually it's funny because some of them like actually look better in the original cut. So the character Cassidy, she gets her death scene plays the exact same in both shots. The difference though is the burn on her neck, because what happens is she gets a rug burn, basically a rope burn on her neck before she ends up getting killed. Um, that actually looks better in the original cut than in Jason's cut, because in Jason's cut, Jason Blum's cut, it's like it looks like a sickness a little bit. It's all like starting to pus and stuff. While the original cut, it actually was like it looked like a legit rope burn and so it actually reads a little better.
Hmm.
But the way that she dies and stuff plays the exact same. She sees the burn, and she's like, "Oh, what's going on?" She turns the camera up, turns the camera back down, and then the rope now is around her neck,
Mm-hmm.
and then she gets pulled off, pulled away and dies and stuff. That's actually played verbatim the same. So Jason Blum actually didn't make up that death. It was already done. It's just he just improved the lighting.
Now, is it the same director for both versions? Since I've never seen it yet.
Yes, it's the same director. It's just actually no. Yeah, it is the same director. It's just they went and reshot a lot of things, and they basically made and yeah, they basically made a lot of things more brighter, and then again they did a lot of cuts on the story.
Hmm. Interesting. Where can we watch the original director's cut?
On the Blu-ray DVD.
Blu-ray.
They offer that on the settings. You can watch the original.
I might have to look at my Blu-ray again because I don't think I ever noticed that, or I just took it as being the same movie and never thought about it because I did not know that they were that drastically different. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's the biggest changes they did was it's funny because one of the changes they did was the setting itself. The In the original cut, it's actually filmed in the director's hometown. They specifically mentioned the town, but in the Jason Blum's cut, they cut that out. They cut any mention about where this incident happened, and they left them more ambiguous about that.
Huh.
Um, but a lot of it too is padding. They padded out. Well, when I say padding, it's more of they explored a lot more.
Mhm.
There's just a lot more like with the characters. There's a lot more of the character stuff where you expect to get cut, where it's like more deep dives into the characters' relationships with each other, more explanations of why. The biggest storyline change was again Pfeiffer's reveal. That was the biggest change that happened.
I wouldn't be surprised. I was thinking about the camera guy's name, Ryan. I think it's Ryan. Ryan. Since you see him by himself with the camera a lot more, as though he's someone who didn't really want to do this, but then when he is forced to do this behind the scenes stuff, he just kind of starts filming everything because he films himself in his bedroom before I think his mom walks in home. And
yeah, there's more deep dive into Ryan's backstory of why he does it, where it doesn't feel so like you said, why is he doing this? Like it's kind of weird he's deciding to do this.
As to his weird jock vibe, which is odd considering I think there's only a couple scenes where you actually see the football team in them. And you never get the sense that Reese was all that good of a football player because he's not really a good actor either. Ryan, you can see as though he was just like another, high school football player, but Reese was supposed to be one of the best football players there, and he just quit for no reason to go do a drama play. It does seem odd because he doesn't really come off as being like a really good jock.
Well, yeah, and no, and that's another thing they explore in the director's cut is there's more scenes explaining why Reese did the change and stuff. It's not as just superficial as, oh, I just wanted to do it for the girl. He had other reasons too that you get the explanation in the director's cut. But again, they wanted to make it shorter, so they ended up cutting stuff like that.
Yeah, the character stuff is what people will go back to when they rewatch the film. If they decide to go rewatch the film, I don't know how many people are going to go back and rewatch The Gallows. As much as I enjoyed it the very first time I saw it, not diving deep into the film actually works in the film's favor. I think if you decide to watch the whole film and then you try and go back and try and piece all the details back together again, the whole movie falls apart. Which is sad, because I would like for there to be more found footage films that are fondly remembered, like Blair Witch Project, like Paranormal Activity, but there just aren't that many. Um, I don't remember anyone talking fondly of the Gallows when it originally came out at all. Like I know people who saw it, and no one cared for it. I mean, it didn't get good reviews. It just made a lot of money because it was a found footage film and it came out at the right time.
It came out just along with all the other ones. So yeah. Uh, and again, that's why the sequel they didn't even try to put in the theaters because they knew it wouldn't do well. So it's because same deal. When it came out, it was definitely one of those movies. It came out and then it left, and you never heard anyone speak fondly about it. Again, the trailers is the only thing that ever went viral with the whole movie. I honestly think if the trailers weren't that trailer wasn't. Did you ever see the trailer, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the trailer is actually it is. The trailer is the only reason the movie even got picked up by Jason Blum. He saw that trailer and was like, "Oh, okay, this seems interesting." I think if the trailer wasn't, and I honestly think it's because half it is because I mean, everyone knows Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's a, I mean, so like doing like, I think if they, I mean, honestly, they say a lot about music can really sell a scene. I think if they did not have that, if they chose just some generic song or even just did some like or not even use music, I don't think it would have piqued people's interest as much as it did.
No, I agree with you. I think we weren't at that time where we were getting 5 trailers for every new movie coming out over the course of like 6 months. So back then, you needed to get people with that 1 or 2 trailers, and that was it. Nowadays, unfortunately, you can get 5 fucking trailers for a single movie right before it comes out, which is sad because I stopped watching all these extra fucking trailers just so they can reveal a little bit more in each trailer. I'm like, dude, I don't want you to reveal more. I want you to reveal less.
It's interesting too because if you think about it, Gallows was one of the originators of horror movies taking a famous song and making it creepy sounding. That's now we call it the Jordan Peele effect because that's all what Jordan Peele does with all of his trailers now is he does that. But Gallows is one of the first examples of a horror movie taking a iconic song and making it sound more sinister.
I don't know. I kind of always look back at what is it, Insidious, with every time is it Insidious or The Conjuring? Dude, because they were both James Wan films. I'm now confused on which one. I think it's Insidious. Oh my god, with the song, that old fucking song, it's just creepy now, whereas before it wasn't really that creepy. But I believe you're absolutely right. There's this weird thing now where people want to take these really old songs and just make them creepy when they're played in a horror film. All right. So we've delved deep into the Gallows. Is there anything else we'd like to talk about in regards to the Gallows? Since we've revealed all the stuff about it and talked about both the original cut and the theatrical cut, post Jason Blum.
No. If you do decide to see the Gallows, I recommend find the Blu-ray of it and watching the Blu-ray, the original cut. I think it's the superior cut. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it was a viral trailer that released to a very meh movie.
Which it's not the first film to ever do that, and it won't be the last. In which the trailer usually has all the great points in it, and then when you actually see the final movie, you're kind of all the great parts were in the trailer. That's why I try not to watch as many trailers as I used to. I'm not a big trailer guy anymore. One trailer is enough. I don't need to see the freaking 4 or 5 different versions that come out over the course of the pre-release before the movie actually comes out. But I think that because of the nature of this film, I believe there are only two groups of audiences that will enjoy it. Those who like the theater and wanted to see a movie that represents the high school theater experience done horror style. And then, of course, people who are huge fans of found footage films, no matter the shortcomings of found footage films, because there are a lot of found footage films out there with a lot of shortcomings, and this one is by far not the worst of them out there. It still does have some entertaining moments, despite the fact that the hangman is not nearly as interesting as it should be. And it does end with a third act that just says, what the fuck, to it. But I think that if you can walk into this film knowing its shortcomings, you might find something to enjoy it. I think going blind into this movie will leave you like a lot of other audience members, which is saying, it sucks. Those are my opinions, anyways. With that, we're going to go ahead and rate the film on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being very bad, 5 being not so very bad. Where would you place this film?
A 2.
2. So if I was giving my ratings for when I first saw the film, it would have been a 3, but now it is definitely a 2. Giving it a more critical eye and finally looking at the ending again and saying, nah, the ending really does destroy most of the movie, has lowered its standings, but there are a ton of found footage films that are way lower than that on my scale. So with that, everyone, I want to thank you, Philip Ray, for joining us as our guest host on Conversation on Horror, in which we took a little deep dive into the movie The Gallows of our found footage films. There are plenty of them out there. This is definitely not the worst for everyone out there, but it's definitely not the best. But, you may find something about it that you might like. You may not. With that, I want to thank you all for joining us on Conversations in Horror this week. Make sure to check out all of our previous episodes, as there are a lot of them. You can find them on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, and YouTube. With that, make sure to like, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast so you don't ever miss an episode, because we've got a lot of great ones coming up for the rest of this year. Thank you all from Something Wicked Entertainment, and have a great day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.